There are 4 seats up for grabs in election 2022 for the State Court of Appeals. We're joined by Republican candidate Donna Stroud. Her opponent declined the invitation we offered to join us for this program and this conversation. Ms. Stroud, thanks for coming on television and on the digital media to explain your candidacy. Good to see you.
Thank you so much for having me.
I could read the teleprompter, your biography and your expertise. However, you're here. Tell us about your qualifications. What, in your opinion, makes you the right pick for Court of Appeals?
Well, first, I've been on the Court of Appeals since my first election in 2006. So I've been there for almost 15 and a half years now. So I have a track record, of course, on the court. Then, of course, I was appointed as Chief Judge of the court in January of 21 because the senior judge on the court is normally serves as the Chief Judge, and our prior Chief Judge retired. So I became the Chief Judge then. And the Chief Judge just has additional administrative duties. We all hear cases the same way. We all decide cases the same way. But the Chief Judge has some additional administrative duties. So I've been doing the job, and I love doing it, enjoy it very much for 15 and a half years. And before I was on the Court of Appeals, I served as a trial court judge. I was a district court judge for a couple of years. And then before that, I practiced law for 16 years. So I've had extensive experience in all of the areas, all the things that the Court of Appeals does.
I was going to ask about so many experiences are possible when you're an attorney. You can go civil, you can go criminal cases, defendants, prosecute. What blend of skills or talents do you need to be most effective when you go to the Court of Appeals level of service to our state?
The Court of Appeals is different because we're doing reading, research, writing primarily in our cases. And it is different from being a trial judge where you're presiding in a courtroom and dealing with all sorts of a very fast, I sort of compare it to an emergency room, like in a hospital where you have, lots of things coming in and out. And at the Court of Appeals, we're sort of more like the more serious cases where now they have to go and get the specialist to look at it closely and take more time with it. So we are, they are a little bit different. I've worked with about 50 judges during my time on the court, from all different backgrounds and all different, personalities. And I can tell you that there's some people who really just like the reading and the research and really enjoy the work on the Court of Appeals. And others think it's a little bit too quiet. So, but I love it.
On the Court of Appeals, most people know Supreme Court, and of course, U.S. Supreme Court always getting all the attention, talking about legal issues. What is the differences? Why don't we, the people, hear as much about the Court of Appeals compared to other types of courts?
The Court of Appeals is certainly the least known court. I think that we spend a lot of our time campaigning just explaining what it is. But we are, the technical name is an intermediate appellate court, and that just means that we're the appellate court in the middle between the trial court and the Supreme Court. So we hear appeals from all of the trial courts all across the state. We have district courts, superior courts, we have administrative agencies, and cases are tried there. That's the cases, those are the places that you see on TV where you see a trial and a witness testifying and a jury sitting over there and that sort of thing. And so people are more familiar with the trial court because they see that more often. You read about it in the news more often. Then only really a tiny percentage of cases are appealed. We have about 3.5 to 4 million cases going through our trial courts in the state of North Carolina each year. And we'll get about maybe 1,200, 1,500 appeals that come to our court. So really a very small percentage of those. But we sit in 3 judge panels. We have 15 judges on the court total, and we rotate to sit with other judges all the time. We don't have fixed panels. So we sit with 2 other judges, and we look at the legal arguments, we read the briefs, we hear the arguments from the attorneys, and consider whether or not the trial court made any sort of legal error that caused prejudice in the case. And then we write opinions on that. And all of those opinions are out there. You can read them. nccourts.org has got all of the opinions that the court writes available. And actually, our oral arguments at the court, where attorneys come to argue cases, are also live streamed now. So they're all on YouTube. So if anyone is interested in how those arguments work, they're all available online.
Does that change the dynamic for you? I mean, if you've been on 15 years, you predate the YouTube live streams, and even court comfort with cameras and audio recording equipment in the courtroom. How is it different? How have you changed with the times?
Well, I'll tell you, judges are not really necessarily quick to adjust to new technological changes, okay? And we actually had considered live streaming for years, and a lot of courts debate it. Some will do it, some don't do it. We had thought about it. We had gotten the equipment even before COVID, but we had not made that decision to proceed to live streaming the cases. And then when COVID came along, we went, of course, to remote arguments. And we were doing those online. We were doing them by WebEx. And so we sort of had to get used to that, like everybody else did during COVID. We had to get used to that in a hurry. And so we did. And then as we resumed our operations in person, we now keep that as an option for people. If attorneys need to do a remote argument, they can do that. So it's, I don't know that it really changes it a lot. We have to be more careful. Sometimes there are cases where there are confidential information or children's names or things that we don't want to broadcast out there because it might harm someone. And so we'll be a little more careful about some of the things that we say in the arguments. And but so far, so good. We've not had any major, you know, crazy things happen or technological glitches. Nobody's become a meme yet. So we're just hoping that it stays that way.
You've worked with the dozens of other judges that have come and gone in the Court of Appeals since you've arrived, and now you're the leader. What are, in the general sense, regardless of party affiliation, the best qualities that make a great appellate judge? So as we're going down our ballots, we're doing our own homework online. Do we look at party really hard for an appellate judge, or do we look at what they've done, what they've said, what traits, what do I need to know before I cast a vote?
I think the first thing is their experience. You know, certainly, now we have a wide variety of experiences on our court, and that's a good thing because we hear all sorts of different cases. But I think having some really good substantive experience and that you've established yourself, you know, in whatever area it is, whether you did real estate law or you did civil litigation or you did criminal law, whatever, that you've had some good solid experience there. And you want people who are going to make independent decisions, that are going to look at things carefully, that are going to be fair, that are going to be unbiased, and just decide things the way that the law requires. So just a willingness to really dig down into it and study the law and try to get it right in every case, I think.
The court is a machine, and 1,500 cases, it's a lot of cases to hear, even if it's just 3 or 4% of the total cases that are out there. How do we know that the court is running well? What does it take to satisfy you as a sitting chief judge to go, you know, opinions aside, the mechanism of the court's working the way I want it? Is it doing what you need it to do? Is it doing what we needed to do as North Carolinians coming out of COVID-19 and the pandemic?
Yes. We're doing well. We look at it, and of course we track these statistics all the time. I get a report every month. We look at, of course, the cases coming in, the cases going out, the disposition times, that is how long it takes a case once it comes to us before we get that opinion out. We track all of that, and obviously we want to get that as short as we reasonably can, given all the things that we have to deal with. Our court has been known, I mean, has been some research done on that over the years, and it was a while back, but actually North Carolina's Court of Appeals was one of the most efficient intermediate appellate courts in the country, based on that research that was done a while back by people that looked at various courts. And I'd say we're still doing that. And of course we're always trying to improve. We have various resources to help us with that. We have the Center for State Courts. We have the Administrative Office of Courts here in North Carolina. There's a Chief Judges Conference that I participate in. And so we go to different programs and different groups that do research on the courts and try to look at best practices. And so we're always trying to improve that.
Let's talk about you a little more in depth. What is it about you and your personality and your style of legal scholarship that, in your opinion, makes you an effective appellate court judge?
I think, I call myself a law geek. I mean, I really enjoy digging down into the cases. Each case is sort of like a new mystery or a new, it's a new story. Every case is a story. But they're stories about real people, and they're extremely important. And every case is the most important case to the people that are in that case. And so we're very aware of that. So they're fascinating. And I think that, and it's important that we feel that way about it. You know, sometimes people will ask, well, you know, what's the most important case, or what's the biggest case, or whatever. And that's really hard to answer, especially after you've written about 1,300 opinions. But, you know, just depending upon the legal issues presented, it could be what's considered a very small case in the legal world. It could even be a small claims case or something like that. That we find really, you know, this very interesting, that presents a very important and interesting issue that might affect a lot of people. It's not just the multi-million-dollar cases that have a lot of, you know, a lot of money, you might get a lot of coverage. So I think, you know, just the important thing, probably like with any job, is really enjoying it and wanting to do a really good job at it.
One interesting aspect about judicial races is those with experience that are in office tout the experience. Those that are coming up say
Sure.
change is needed. And I've interviewed dozens, hundreds of legislators, and they run their course. How do you stay fresh in the generic sense? You've been on the bench, you've seen 1,300 opinions come across, you've had to participate in. Are you still learning? Or do you reach a point where you're now a wise judge and that's who we want overseeing our case when we appeal it?
Well,
wear your crown proudly on that question.
But yeah, you're always learning. Right. I mean, and the more you learn that you that you don't know, right? So sure, you're always doing that. I mean, I teach judicial process at Campbell Law School. I've taught that. I started teaching that in 2008. And I have an LLM in judicial studies that I got from Duke, so just additional education above the, you know, the law degree from Campbell, and it's so yeah, you know, you're just always trying to learn and improve, and there's always new issues. I mean, that's one of the amazing things is you would think that by now, like every single legal issue, you know, had already been answered, but no, there are always interesting new things coming in, and even now, sadly, of course, with COVID, it has created all sorts of legal issues that you wouldn't even imagine, just the impacts it had on even just procedures in the case and delays and things, not even talking about the actual law about it, that now we have these new issues we have to do. And so there's always something interesting, you know, something new that we are trying to get it right.
North Carolina, that's Donna Stroud. She is on the Court of Appeals. She is seeking a new term on the North Carolina Court of Appeals, so you'll see her name on a state ballot. Judge, thank you so much for sharing your expertise, insight, and vision with us here tonight.
Well, thank you so much for having me.